Okay, this is a jury trial. The jury will be right there. Okay. Is the prosecution ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. We have a few pre-trial matters we'd like to begin with.
Please go ahead.
First, the people would like to make appearances before the court.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Anne Marie Truso, alongside my co-counsel Abigail Dokos.
Good morning, Your Honor.
And Terry McLean.
Good morning, Your Honor.
We will be representing the state of Midlands. Alongside us is our party representative, Agent Taryn Rivera.
Good morning, Your
Now, a few pre-trial matters. We have a few documents we'd like to tender to the bench.
Yes.
The defense has seen these documents. It is indictment, stipulations, order on motion limine, relevant law, jury instructions, verdict form, special instructions, and rules of evidence. May I approach and tender?
Yes, you may. In this binder, are there exhibits that are pre-emitted?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. You may continue.
Prosecution would also like to invoke Rules 615 and 603. Rule 615 being the constructive sequestration of all parties with the exception to party representatives, and Rule 603 being the constructive swearing in of all witnesses.
Granted.
And since this is our first time with Your Honor, we would like to ask your preferences on moving about the well,
Move freely.
along with asking your preference on approaching the opposing counsel and witness stand.
Just ask to do it.
And lastly, if objections are sustained, should we move to strike from the record or assume that it's already been stricken?
Make a motion to strike.
With that, prosecution is ready to proceed.
Defense have preliminary matters?
Yes, Your Honor. May we also make appearances before the court?
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Ashley Cooper. I'm alongside with my co-counsel Sky Clark. Good morning, Your Honor. Izzy Stalker. Good morning, Your Honor. And we represent the defendant in today's case, Charlie Martin. Good morning, Your Honor. And Your Honor, we would like to note that the record that Ms. Martin will be serving as our only party representative in today's case.
So noted.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense has no further housekeeping matters.
Opening statement by the prosecution.
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
The danger was dismissed and death delivered. This is the case that the prosecution will bring before you today. Now, in just a few short moments, Rowan Patel, an employee of the show The Saboteurs, will come up here and give you a full rundown and background of the show. But for now, let me give you a brief overview. Each season of The Saboteurs, roughly 20 contestants compete in various physical and mental challenges, all vying for a grand prize of $1 million. But there is a twist. Each season, 3 contestants are selected to be saboteurs, where in each challenge, they may sabotage the other contestants in hopes of getting a leg up in the competition. Now, the story of Rob Armstrong and Charlie Martin begins in season 2 of The Saboteurs. In this season, both were saboteurs, and both were on the verge of winning the competition. Neck and neck, they were in the final few contestants left in the show. Now, one option here was that they could both win and split the $1 million prize, living a life of luxury and fame. But this is not what happened, because Rob Armstrong betrayed Charlie Martin and kept the $1 million prize for themselves. Now, this angered Charlie a lot. Charlie was embarrassed on a national stage, and this anger and resentment built for years and years and years. Charlie Martin's life was ruined. This was until season 10, an all-star reunion season, where both Rob and Charlie would be competing once again. Throughout the season, as Riley Kay will come up here and tell you, Charlie Martin made a series of fatal mistakes, each one more reckless than the last. This all culminated in the final challenge of the season when Charlie Martin placed oxalic acid into Rob Armstrong's scuba mask. Now, later today, the chief forensic pathologist of Charlotte County, Midlands, will come up here and tell you just the effects that this oxalic acid had on Rob Martin. Now, today, we, as the prosecution, have the burden of proof. We must prove to you, the jury, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Charlie Martin is guilty of murder. That Charlie Martin purposefully, knowingly, or recklessly caused the death of Rob Armstrong. And Charlie Martin acted recklessly. So, in order for an act to be reckless, it must show some sort of depraved indifference to the value of human life. And in order to do this, it must be a gross deviation of the conduct from the conduct of a law-abiding citizen. Now, I'd ask you, what would be typical conduct of a law-abiding citizen? Would it be putting rat poison in their friend's food? Would it be putting bleach in a coworker's coffee? Would it be putting a chemical, which they knew was extremely dangerous, into a confined scuba mask shortly before another person dove underwater? Now, we take this burden of proof, and later today, my co-counsel, Abby Dokas, will come up here and ask that you return a verdict of guilty. And I want you to think about these questions. What would a law-abiding citizen do in this situation? Because when danger is disregarded, death is delivered.
Defense opening?
Yes, Your Honor. If I may.
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. Don't punish the pawn. Because before there was tragedy, there was a vulnerable young contestant. 5 years ago, a young, naive, vulnerable Charlie Martin entered the brutal world of reality television. The Saboteurs was a game show, pitting 20 contestants against one another as they compete to murder each other for a cash prize. Well, 3 of those contestants are assigned the role of saboteur, in which they intentionally sabotage their fellow contestants. And as these games often go, Charlie Martin was betrayed. Not just by any contestant, but by her teammate, her ally, and most of all, her friend, Rob Armstrong. And what followed that betrayal was not just elimination from the game, but years of online harassment, public humiliation, and emotional damage. Damage so severe that when Riley Kay asked Miss Martin to return, she said no. She said no because she wasn't well. She said no because she knew what the world had already done to her. Members of the jury, the facts of this case are clear. On April 6th of 2025, Rob Armstrong drowned during the final dive portion of the Saboteurs Challenge. And this death was the subsequent result of the inhalation of oxalic acid. Oxalic acid that was undeniably placed in the mask by the defendant, Charlie Martin. Oxalic acid that did undeniably kill Rob Armstrong. And members of the jury were not here to deny that. But there is so much more to the story.
Members of the jury, you will learn 3 things today. 1, that Charlie Martin exhibited signs and symptoms of PTSD. 2, that production knew this and continued to exploit her vulnerabilities for views and ratings. And 3, Charlie Martin just did what she was asked. Members of the jury, Dr. Micah Lynn is going to come up here and explain to you how season 2 left Miss Martin in such emotional and mental distress that putting her in that same environment again would only escalate that. And production knew this. Production performed a psychological assessment prior to the filming of season 10, in which Riley Kay, one of the producers, was tasked with monitoring Miss Martin, yet failed to. Because Riley Kay would rather the show be successful than care for its own contestants. And Indigo Quaid will come up here and tell you how after that betrayal in season 2, the ratings peaked, but they've been declining ever since. And Riley Kay was hungry to get them back up, and she wouldn't stop at anything, even if that meant bending the rules. And yet those rules, they were written by production. Those risks were escalated by production. And the pressure to perform came from one producer in specific, Riley Kay. She had her hand in the entire game, and all Charlie was just her pawn. And members of the jury, Charlie's gonna come up here, and she's gonna tell you that she was just fulfilling the role she was assigned. Sabotage was expected, sabotage was encouraged, and sabotage was rewarded. And when the game became unsafe, when the boundaries disappeared, it was not Charlie Martin who removed them, because this was not a lone act. This was not a calculated killing. This was not murder. This was punishing the pawn. It was the end result of betrayal, relentless harassment, producer manipulation, and a production company that escalated danger, not dismissed it, for entertainment. Riley Kay encouraged harsher sabotage. Riley Kay controlled the equipment, and Riley Kay controlled the rules. Charlie made a mistake, a devastating one that cost a life. But pawns do not act with intent. They act under direction. And members of the jury, the prosecution bears the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Charlie acted purposefully, knowingly, and recklessly to cause Rob Armstrong's death. And members of the jury, if the evidence shows that Charlie dismissed danger, but was placed into the dangerous ring of the so-called saboteurs, and then pressured to perform, stripped of safeguards, and manipulated by production, then that doubt is reasonable. And members of the jury, reasonable doubt means you don't punish the pawn.
Prosecution, call your first witness, please.
Prosecution would like to call Rowan Patel to the stand.
Okay.
May I proceed, Your
Yes, you
Honor?
may.
Can you please state your name for the court, spelling your last?
Rowan Patel, Patel.
And how are you involved in today's case, Ms. Patel?
I'm the challenge designer for the show The Saboteurs.
What is the Saboteurs?
The Saboteurs is a reality TV show where there are 20 contestants who are competing, 3 of them being saboteurs who are asked to sabotage the other contestants or the nobles.
What does your role as a challenge designer for the show entail?
Well, I design all the challenges that the contestants have to go through to survive, and I also conduct safety briefings.
Did you create the final challenge that was done April 6th?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, permission to approach opposing counsel.
Yes.
Let the record reflect I'm approaching opposing counsel with what's been previously marked as exhibits 20 and 22. Permission to approach the witness.
Yes, you may.
Let the record reflect I'm approaching the witness with the same. Your Honor, would you like a courtesy
Yes, I
copy?
would. Thank you very much.
What have I just handed you?
Exhibit 20 is the diagram of the land portion of the final challenge, and Exhibit 22 is a picture of the underwater challenge.
Are they a fair and accurate copy?
Yes, they are.
Have they been altered in any way?
No, they have not.
Your Honor, pursuant with stipulation 11, Exhibit 22 has already been pre-admitted into evidence, and prosecution would like to move Exhibit 20 into evidence as well.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Admitted.
Can you run me through what the final challenge was supposed to look like?
Yes. First, the contestants started out on the land portion, where they ran through carrying weighted backpacks, rope walls, mud pits, and all of that towards stuff, where they then entered a narrow path to the underwater challenge. They dropped the weighted backpacks, put on scuba equipment, and dove into water to get their assigned rings.
Now, the safety checks you mentioned you do. Did you do this prior to the final challenge?
Yes, I did.
And did you find any dangerous aspects?
No, I walked through the challenge the morning of, and just to make sure everything was going as accordingly, I did find Charlie Martin, the defendant, tampering with some of the equipment.
You saw Martin tampering with the equipment?
Yes.
What equipment was it?
He was touching all of the equipment. He had informed me that he was doing the planned sabotage, but what was weird is he was also touching one of the air tanks.
Now, I want to go through each of these one by one. Those air tanks you just mentioned, what were they used for?
Those were used for the underwater portion of the challenge. Each contestant got 30 minutes of air, and they were only supposed to use about 10 minutes.
And was Martin allowed to be tampering with those?
No, he was not. The planned sabotage was for 10 pounds of weight to be added into the weighted backpacks. It had nothing to do with the air tanks.
These backpacks, was Martin allowed to be messing with those?
Technically, the saboteurs are not allowed to actually administer the sabotage. The producers are supposed to do that. This season, we gave a little leeway so we could get some shots with the camera work of them doing it, but it wasn't them actually supposed to be doing it.
Now, going back to your safety checks, were any other contingencies put in place to make sure things were ran properly?
Yes, before each challenge, I conducted a safety briefing with all of the contestants. We went over safety protocols, emergency signals, and they were also checked by a medical staff to make sure they were fit to compete.
Moving to these safety briefings, what do they look like?
I go over the emergency signals, safety protocols, just to make sure all the contestants know if there's an emergency or they're in danger, that they're safe.
Is there anything used by production to make sure the contestants are safe?
Yes. For this challenge specifically, we had safety divers on standby where we could call them with walkie-talkies, and we also had an emergency X symbol in case they were stuck under the water.
Let the record reflect the witness has crossed her arms in an X over her chest. Now, Ms. Patel, I'm going to ask you a few difficult questions about Rob's death. Where were you at the time that it occurred?
I was in the production truck. I was watching the footage live when Rob passed.
And at any point during this dive, did he produce the safety signal?
He did not. Rob was really the type of contestant to push through even when he shouldn't, but that's why we had the other safety protocols in place for instances like this. What was weird is we tried to send the divers in and they weren't going in.
Wait, what do you mean the divers weren't going in?
Well, we tried to reach them on the walkie-talkies multiple times, but they weren't answering. We actually had to send someone physically to go make sure that they were heading into the water.
Is there a standard procedure for getting in contact with the dive team?
Yes, we have 2 channels. All of the divers' walkie-talkies are on channel 2, so nothing gets mixed up and everything else is on channel 1.
Was there something wrong with this standard procedure on the day of the final challenge?
Well, after we found out that the divers' walkie-talkies had been missing a battery.
Did you go search for the battery?
I did. I scoured the grounds after all of this happened, and I couldn't find the missing batteries, which was weird. But I did find some other things.
What did you find?
Well, I found that in Rob's backpack, there was 30 pounds of weight added. The only approved sabotage was an extra 10 pounds, so the most it should have been was 20. And Charlie Martin's backpack had nothing in it, just a few light rocks.
Did you find anything else other than the oddities with the backpack?
Yes, I also found that Rob's air tank was completely empty. And even with him struggling and taking the extra time, there should have been only 15 to 20 minutes gone.
Now, how common?
Objection to speculation.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, this witness has testified that they are the challenge designer. They are the ones expecting the outcomes of these challenges because they're putting in the effort to create them. They should know how the equipment is being used during the challenge and how much is properly being used per safety guidelines that they are in charge of following.
You need to lay a little more foundation to do that, sustain.
Was anything else found with the grounds other than the air tanks and the backpacks?
Yes.
What was found? Was the battery found? Was anything else found to be wrong with any other equipment?
No, the batteries were not found. The equipment that was touched was the scuba gear and the backpacks, especially the weight with Rob's backpack.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Oh, yep, Stacy. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Good morning, Ms. Patel.
Morning.
You've worked in the TV and film industry for a while, right?
Yes, I have.
And you've been the challenge designer for the Saboteurs for about 10 seasons, right?
Yes, it was the coolest job I ever had.
And the Saboteurs, it wasn't like other shows, right?
No.
It was unique
Yes.
because the Saboteurs added danger, right?
Yeah, it had a danger, but we had safety protocols to make sure that the contestants were safe.
And there was drama,
Well, yeah, it's reality television. What do you expect?
and maybe you'd even say intrigue.
Yeah.
And without these elements, it would just be like any other game show, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And you and the staff didn't want that, right?
Well, no, I mean, reality television is all about the ratings. You have to make something special or your show's gonna get canceled.
So you wanted something bigger?
Yes.
And season 10 was gonna be your biggest season yet, right?
It was the all-star season.
And it was because you were bringing back old contestants, right?
Yes, we were.
Like Charlie Martin
Yes.
and Rob Armstrong.
Yes.
And that betrayal in season 2 made the show extremely popular, right?
It did. It went viral.
And until the final challenge on season 10, the ratings were really high, right?
They were, yes.
And you expected that end of the season to have the best ratings yet, right?
Yes, we did.
And now I want to talk more about sabotages. They were a pretty important part of the show, right?
I mean, the show is called The Saboteurs.
And so usually with better sabotages, you got better ratings, right?
The more drama, the more intrigue.
And you worked with production on these sabotages, right?
Well, I designed the challenges.
Yeah, since they usually involved some element of challenge design.
Well, yes.
And the contestants did their sabotages under Riley K's supervision, right?
Yes, it was the production's responsibility to make sure that the sabotages were done correctly.
One of those contestants being Charlie Martin.
Yes, Charlie Martin was a saboteur.
And Riley K was also completely responsible to ensure how these sabotages were done, right?
Well, she was partially responsible, yes, as production.
So that was a yes to my question.
Yes.
And producers would sometimes get on camera contestants looking shifty around equipment, right?
Yes.
And you saw Charlie Martin, as you mentioned in your testimony, fiddling with the diving equipment, right?
Yes, I did.
And was Riley K around?
Yes, she had been with Charlie Martin. I think she stepped away to take a phone call.
Even though the contestants weren't supposed to even touch the equipment,
No, they were not.
or even be in the challenge area to begin with.
No, and the contestants knew that they were not supposed to be touching the equipment.
But let me ask again, Riley K was still in the area.
Yes, she was.
So you saw them break the rules?
Yes.
And all Riley K did was look at you and shrug?
She did.
But she inspected the equipment again, right?
I did not. I was called away for another safety issue with part of the challenge, and I did not have time, but I checked all of the equipment in the beginning, and there shouldn't have been anything wrong with it when the challenge began.
And now I want to talk about the safety protocol again. You said if in distress while underwater, the contestants would make an X symbol, right?
Yes, that was the emergency signal.
But you were also briefed to look out for any other signs of distress, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Armstrong, while underwater, was showing signs of distress, right?
Yes, they were showing signs of distress, and again, we tried to walkie-talkie the divers, and they weren't going in.
And so the divers had a delayed reaction to going in to save Rob, right?
I mean, who could expect a missing battery?
And moving on. As the challenge designer, you knew that the dive portion would be dangerous, right?
Yes, I mean, comparatively to the other parts of the challenge, but we had plenty of safety protocols.
And you weren't concerned because Rob had done a dive without a mask before, right?
Yes, he had in one of the other challenges.
And still, the diver isn't going right away.
The walkie-talkies were missing a battery. I mean, we did the best we could. We sent someone to go send them in. We couldn't have expected that. They were checked prior.
So, even though the battery was missing, the production was still delayed and ignored obvious signs of distress, right?
Well, it wasn't ignored. We were trying to send the divers in. It had a delayed reaction because of that missing battery.
And there was no protocol in place in case that happened.
The protocol was us sending someone to physically go tell the divers to go in.
No backup batteries.
How are you supposed to have a backup battery when you didn't even know the battery was missing to begin with?
But remind me again, this dive challenge had a contestant's lives at stake, right?
Yes, but we had plenty of safety protocols.
Because it was dangerous.
It was dangerous.
And yet, the production team didn't just have any spare batteries.
All the walkie-talkies were checked prior to the challenge. They all had their batteries in them. We cannot foresee missing batteries on equipment that had already been checked.
Thank you, Ms. Patel. No further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, I just asked that my witness be allowed to step down.
Step down, please. Prosecution, call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor, prosecution would like to call Dr. Atlas Hartley to the stand.
May I proceed?
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you care to state your first and last name for the record, spelling your last?
My name is Dr. Atlas Hartley, Hartley.
And how are you involved in this case today, doctor?
I'm the Chief Medical Examiner for Charlotte County. I have been for 5 years. I performed the autopsy on Mr. Armstrong, and I arrived about 2 hours after emergency services were called.
What background has led you to your current position as the Chief Medical Examiner for the county?
I got my undergraduate at the University of Central Florida. I then got my master's at the University of South Florida. I then began my work in about 2009. I started as a forensic pathologist. I was then promoted to senior forensic pathologist. And then I eventually, in 2021, got my current position now as Chief Medical Examiner.
What are some of your responsibilities in this current position?
Our office usually does about 5,000 autopsies a year. I typically either perform them or I train others to do such, and then I oversee them. I also sometimes perform toxicologies to supplement these reports. I also fill out I fill out reports and sometimes testify on them in court.
You mentioned that you're here because you performed the autopsy on Rob Armstrong. Is your testimony today regarding that autopsy going to be based on sufficient facts and data?
Yes, I had access to all of Rob's prior medical records. I was also able to, like I said, perform a toxicology to supplement my autopsy. I also was able to watch the video of the final challenge through production. I was able to take note of any changes in Rob's behavior before he passed.
And when conducting this autopsy, did you follow the proper principles and methods?
Yes, I've been using the same principles and methods for thousands of cases before this. It is actually supported and backed by the National Association of Medical Examiners. They actually consider this the gold standard in our field.
And did you apply these methods to the facts that were available to you in today's case?
Yes, I did. All of my findings today are based off of, I made my conclusions backed with a reasonable degree of scientific and medical certainty.
And in your professional opinion, how did Rob Armstrong die?
In my professional opinion, I believe that Mr. Armstrong inhaled about 1 to 1.75 grams of oxalic acid. This caused
Objection, Your
hypoxia.
Honor. Improper expert testimony. May I direct you to some case law?
Yes, you may. What page?
Page 7.
Continue.
Yes, so at the bottom of page 7, it's specifically Kane software versus Martin's investigations. This basically says that experts are not allowed to be used as weapons in trial, and that expert reports that are exchanged prior to trial must contain a complete statement of all opinions the expert will testify to and the basis and reasonings for them.
Wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not weaponizing this witness. They performed the autopsy in this case, and I'm asking them about their conclusions regarding that.
May I respond to the specific part that I'm
Yes.
objecting to? So this expert in the report has testified that that Mr. Armstrong inhaled between 1.2 and 2.1 grams of oxalic acid. However, they just testified that it was between 1.2 and 1.75 grams. That is specifically the testimony that I'm objecting to.
Wish to be heard?
1.1 1 gram and 1.175 grams would still be between 1 gram and 2.1 grams.
You need to lay a proper foundation. You didn't do that. Objection sustained.
Motion to strike, Your Honor.
Granted.
In forming your conclusions for today's case, what evidence did you have?
I had all of Rob's prior medical records. I was able to take note of the actual video footage from said challenge, and I also had all of my results from my blood panel, my blood gas analysis, and tissue analysis. And if I didn't mention already, I had prior medical records for Mr. Armstrong.
And using all of this evidence, what do you believe caused Rob Armstrong's death?
I believe that Rob Armstrong died due to asphyxia after chemical inhalation. Hypoxia occurred. This caused him to rip off his mask and drown, causing asphyxia.
Now, you mentioned the oxalic acid. What would be some of the symptoms of inhaling the substance?
So right off the bat, if you were to inhale oxalic acid, you would start coughing immediately. Then after about 5 minutes, this would be the time where muscle weakness would start to occur, confusion and disorientation. This only would get worse.
Objection, Your Honor. Improper expert opinion, again, under Kane software.
Wish to be heard?
I can say the specific statement I'm objecting to if that would.
Yes.
Okay. This witness has just testified that in around minute 5 that disorientation would occur, but again in the report this actually isn't said until the 10 to 15 minute mark. I just ask that the witness testifies to what is in the report again.
Overruled. You can ask that question on cross-examination.
Okay.
Make the point.
Do you want me to ask a question?
Yes, please.
What are some of the symptoms of inhaling oxalic acid?
Okay, so initially you would start coughing immediately due to the inhalation, and then after a few minutes, muscle weakness, confusion would occur. Then afterwards, disorientation would start to come into play. Depending on the type of ingestion of this chemical, specifically inhalation, chemical burns might occur.
And why would a person undergo some of these symptoms that you just mentioned?
This would be because of an oxalic acid poisoning.
And what would that lead to?
That would most likely lead to hypoxia, causing drowning and asphyxia if you were underwater.
Now, what's hypoxia?
Hypoxia is essentially your brain being deprived of oxygen.
You mentioned earlier when forming your conclusions that you watched a video.
Yes, I did.
Would you care to explain what happens in the first few minutes of this video?
Of course. So initially, before we dive underwater, we see Mr. Armstrong take a test breath of the mask. He immediately removes the mask and coughs for a few moments before putting it back on and diving underwater. His pace is reasonably strong for the first few moments before it starts to slow.
And what happens once Mr. Armstrong starts to slow?
He starts to seem a bit confused. He is keeping along with the game's objectives for the most part, but his pace is starting to slow. We can see that he starts to become a bit disoriented.
What happens around the 8-minute mark of this video?
Around the 8-minute mark, we are around the 4th anchor at this point. He is attempting to finish the objective of the game, which is to untie a ring from said anchor. He makes a few attempts at this before he starts to swim up. He goes back down one last time to try. He attempts to swim up again. At this point, he seems confused as to where he should be going. He makes one last strong attempt to swim upwards. At this point, he starts to tilt, and that's a clear sign of underwater disorientation. And at this point, he starts to descend erratically, trying to rip his mask off. At this point, we see him inhale a bunch of water.
And what, if anything, would these symptoms that Mr. Armstrong exhibited underwater resemble?
When watching the video, to me, this was a clear case of hypoxia due to oxalic acid poisoning. I took into hypoxia can occur naturally, but usually that is deep underwater diving. This challenge was about 30 feet deep, so I ruled that out of my conclusion. I don't think that it would be possible. Mr. Armstrong was in peak shape, very healthy, so I believe that it would be due to oxalic acid poisoning.
So, based on your medical conclusions, exactly how did Rob Armstrong die?
Rob Armstrong inhaled oxalic acid. He then showed signs of hypoxia. This then caused him to become confused, rip his mask off, and drown. This caused asphyxia.
What are the odds that these events would have happened and Mr. Armstrong would have died in this way without the presence of oxalic acid?
Like I said, I did rule out other possibilities for this happening. I believe that it would be very unlikely without this chemical substance. Rob Armstrong was in peak physical conditioning. He was also a very healthy young man. And also, like I said, the challenge was fairly shallow. It's highly unlikely that this would have occurred naturally.
No further questions.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. I want to talk about what you said on direct examination. You'd agree with me that Rob Armstrong most likely died from hypoxia induced by oxalic acid poisoning, correct?
Correct.
You base this conclusion on a range of oxalic acid that Rob Armstrong may have inhaled that led to his death.
Yes.
You'd agree with me that the amount of oxalic acid that someone inhales directly influences how deadly this would be.
Somewhat.
You believe that the range that Rob Armstrong inhaled was between 1.2 and 2.1 grams of oxalic acid leading to his death, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe any amount in that range would cause his death, correct?
Yes.
I want to talk about how you got those numbers. You didn't just look at Rob Armstrong's body, correct?
Correct.
You didn't just make them up, correct? You had to calculate them, correct?
Correct.
Based on various factors,
Yes, ma'am.
things like build,
Yes.
height,
Yes.
weight.
Yes.
You had to use various factors because people have different tolerances to poisons based on these, correct?
Yes, but poison is still poison.
I'm not asking about if poison is poison. I'm asking if people have different tolerances to poison based on these factors.
Yes.
Well, I want to talk about why you were able to calculate that. You're a doctor, correct?
Correct.
You're an expert in poisons.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a certification from the FBI.
Mhm.
You are the chief medical examiner for for Charlotte County, correct? But you'd agree with me, not everyone is a doctor.
No, not everyone is a doctor.
Not everyone has the expertise that you have. Not everyone has the knowledge to calculate how much oxalic acid would be deadly. Is that a yes to my question? You'd agree with me that chemical labels can help communicate dangers to people, correct?
Yes.
Permission to approach the opposing counsel and the witness in turn with what has been pre-marked as Exhibit 13.
Yes, granted.
Thank you.
Would you like a courtesy copy?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
What is this?
This appears to be the label for oxalic acid.
Is it fair and accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Motion to submit Exhibit 13. It is important to note that under Stipulation 10, all objections have been waived.
Granted. It's submitted.
We are not sure that this is a true and accurate copy of the label.
May I ask why?
What's the stipulation?
The witness hasn't testified.
What's the stipulation?
10, and I did just ask the witness if this was a fair and accurate piece of label.
I already omitted it.
Yes.
So first I want to look at the front of this label.
Okay.
It has pink, blue, and yellow, correct?
There's hearts over the eyes.
Yeah.
If you look in the bottom left corner, the word keep is misspelled.
Yes.
It has 3 E's.
Yep.
Now I want to move to the back. It doesn't mention fatality on the front at all, correct?
No.
Now let's move to the back. It mentions it may be fatal at high concentrations, correct?
Correct.
It doesn't say how much a high concentration is.
No, it does not.
Doesn't say 1 gram is harmful.
No.
Doesn't say 2 grams is harmful.
No.
It doesn't mention a fatal amount at all.
No.
As an expert, you'd agree that this label isn't clear enough about the dangers of oxalic acid, correct?
I believe that it is medically accurate, but I do not think that the common person would understand that.
So that's a yes to my question.
Sure.
You'd agree with me that it should have gone farther in communicating the dangers, correct?
It could have.
No further questions, Your Honor. Permission to retrieve the exhibit from the witness?
Yes, you may. Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor, I just asked my witness to step down.
Please step down. Prosecution, call your next witness.
Prosecution would like to call Aaron King to the stand.
You may proceed.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Riley K.
And what is your occupation?
I was a story producer on the hit show The Saboteurs. My primary role as a producer was to develop the narrative arc of each season. I'd also work closely with the Saboteurs, one of which was the defendant Charlie Martin, who is seated right there wearing a suit and tie.
And why are you here today?
I'm here to testify truthfully regarding everything I know about the death of Rob Armstrong. I'm also here under an immunity agreement with the state of Midlands.
What are your conditions of your immunity agreement?
It stipulates that I be interviewed and respond with honest answers in an investigation that took place on July 1st, 2025. I entered a guilty plea for tampering with the outcome of the game show and for obstruction of justice.
What happens if you violate that immunity agreement?
If I come to court today and testify dishonestly regarding anything that I know, I will go to prison for 11 months and 29 days.
Now you mentioned that you entered a guilty plea. Why did you enter a guilty plea?
Well, I did admit during the investigation that during the filming of the last episode, I got nervous and deleted footage, but only because I was nervous as to what Charlie may have done to Rob that I was not aware of. I also felt an immense deal of pressure from my boss, the executive producer, Reese Crump, who had grabbed me by the shoulders screaming to delete the footage.
Now I'd like to talk a little bit about your role on The Saboteurs Season 10. What was your work with the Saboteurs themselves like?
The saboteurs would have meetings amongst themselves where they would determine who to sabotage and what the sabotage would be. My job was to keep them on track during these meetings. Additionally, I would give them 3 options of sabotage and would sometimes administer the sabotage.
So how did the process of choosing the person to sabotage work?
The saboteurs would nominate and vote on who to sabotage and what the sabotage would be. Though Charlie had suggested that they rotate the power to choose rather than vote.
So since you worked closely with the Saboteurs, what was your relationship with the Saboteurs on Season 10 like?
I had a relationship with all the contestants, including Rob Armstrong. I was especially close with Charlie, as Charlie and I go way back to Season 2. I also thought having Charlie on the show would be great for entertainment purposes.
Being especially close with Charlie, what kinds of behaviors did you observe from him?
Well, I did see her breaking rules here and there, but I tried my best to turn a blind eye, as I thought it'd be good for entertainment value of the show.
Moving on to Rob Armstrong, who you also mentioned, what was your relationship with him like?
I simply knew Rob because he was a contestant on the show. Charlie did talk about Rob a lot. Charlie and Rob go back to Season 2, and Charlie had thought of them to be quite close friends, but that all changed when Rob betrayed Charlie.
What do you mean betrayed him?
This goes way back to season 2. Rob and Charlie were both saboteurs and were in a position to win a large sum of money, $500,000 each to be exact. Rob used Charlie's own words against her and had the other players gang up on her, and they cut Charlie out at the end. And Rob walked away with $1 million, and Charlie left absolutely humiliated.
How did the defendant respond to that situation?
Charlie was an absolute wreck. She was crying, posting on social media. When the two were cast to be on season 10, there was an obvious deep-seated hatred between the two.
Would you consider yourself to still be close to the defendant?
I was close with Charlie, but we had a slight falling out, which caused a rift in our relationship.
Can you tell the court more about this falling out?
I was texting Rob for logistical purposes of the show, but when Charlie found out, Charlie lost it.
What do you mean by Charlie lost it?
As I said, Charlie had requested to be a saboteur, which I was okay with, but Charlie kept taking things further and further.
Further and further, how so?
Charlie wanted me to keep her and Rob in the game for a while, so I obliged. Charlie wanted to administer the sabotages herself, to which I obliged. Charlie went as far as to ask for rat poison to put in Rob's food at one point.
Did you give the defendant rat poison to put in Rob Armstrong's food?
Absolutely not. Charlie had said that she just wanted to put enough in Rob's food to make him sick enough to quit, but it's rat poison. So obviously I drew the line there and said no, and that the show wouldn't run risking someone's life like that. Charlie obviously didn't agree with me and stormed off quite angrily, saying that I lacked vision.
Now, aside from the previously mentioned requests, including the rat poison, were there any other requests?
Charlie had requested a burner phone, which was completely against the rules, but I budged and got Charlie a prepaid SMS flip phone, which meant that I could track and monitor to whom Charlie was in contact with.
To your knowledge, what did the defendant use this phone for?
Charlie would use his phone to make requests to me.
Would you recognize those requests over text if I showed them to you in court here today?
I would.
Your Honor, let the record reflect, or may I approach opposing counsel with what has been marked as Exhibit 19B?
Yes.
May I approach the witness with the same exhibit?
Yes.
Would Your Honor like a courtesy copy?
Yes. Thank you.
What have I just handed you?
This is a text thread.
Does it look, oh, sorry.
Sorry, this is a text thread between me and Charlie Martin.
Does it look to be a true and accurate copy?
It does.
Has it been changed or altered in any way?
It does not.
Your Honor, prosecution would like to move Exhibit 19B into evidence.
Objection hearsay. We just asked that Riley K's text messages be constructively redacted from this.
Wish to be heard?
Your Honor, the messages made by Riley K are not being offered for any truth of the matter, rather for context in a conversation between two people.
So you're asking, that which messages be redacted?
Just Riley K's. Which I think is the gray, right?
Riley K's text messages are in the gray, and they are not being offered for the truth of the matter.
Sustained.
Can you
Motion to
please,
strike, Your Honor?
Granted.
may I publish to the jury with the gray bubbles redacted?
Yes.
You have the copy, so. Can you please summarize the text messages that Charlie Martin made to you in this text thread?
Oh, I'd just like to clarify, the green texts are my texts. Charlie texted saying, where do they keep the chemicals, cleaning supplies in this place? Like not just the mops and the buckets, but the chemicals. And when I received this text, I was very shocked as to why Ms. Martin was using this phone. Ms. Martin texted me then, I have a plan, don't worry, just tell me where to find them, and if I get caught, I can say that I was just cleaning up a wine spill. Please, 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 please. I wanted the conversation to end. I was very flustered as to why Ms. Martin was using this phone, so in order to make the conversation come to an end, I disclosed the location of the cleaning chemicals.
Why did you disclose the location of the cleaning chemicals?
As I said, Ms. Martin wasn't even supposed to be having this phone to begin with. I was risking my career here. I just wanted the conversation to end, so.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about the last challenge, Saboteur Season 10.
What happened during the last challenge?
It was a physical challenge. Charlie had demanded it to be that way because she was better at those. The challenge was designed so that Charlie would carry a 10-pound backpack and Rob would carry a heavier 15-pound backpack. Both contestants had 30 minutes to air their diving tanks.
Now, what did you observe as happening during the challenge?
When Rob went into the lagoon, I noticed that he was breathing heavier. I saw that when Rob went on to put on his blue diving mask, that he spat a little and coughed, but then he went right into the water, and Charlie followed in soon after.
Was there any concern about this spat and coughing that production responded to?
No.
Did production have any concern that there was a need to send any divers in?
The initial dive team response went unanswered. However, I heard over the radio and screaming that the dive team was then sent in.
So the dive team did end up being sent in?
Yes, the dive team did end up being sent in, but I noticed that Ms. Martin was screaming at the producers not to send in the dive team and to let Rob stay down in the water.
Was there any specific reason why did Ms. Martin say why she did not want the dive team sent down?
Ms. Martin said that she wanted Rob to suffer like she had suffered.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examine?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Good morning, Mr. Rivera. Oh, Miss Kay, sorry. I want to start by talking about what yours and Charlie's relationship was like. You met on the set of season 2, correct?
That's right.
And you guys became close friends.
Yeah.
Now, you stayed in touch following the end of season 2, is that correct?
Yeah, Charlie and I did stay in touch.
And so you witnessed some of the harassment that Charlie had faced after season 2.
Yeah, it was awful.
Now, Charlie confided in you about this harassment.
Charlie did. Charlie felt that she could trust me, and I was glad to be Charlie's person.
So you were aware of how much it had affected her?
Yes.
Now, yet you still asked Charlie to return.
I thought having Charlie on the show would be great for the show. I also thought it would be the thing that Charlie needed.
You thought Charlie was reluctant to come back for season 10?
She was.
So, you know, the entire production team wanted Rob and Charlie to come back to boost the ratings, correct?
I was under an immense amount of pressure to get the ratings up, and this would be the way it would happen.
So, you knew Rob would come back.
Yeah, having Rob back on was no problem. Rob loved the cameras, he loved the attention. I knew Charlie would be a harder sell. I'm not proud to admit it, but I did lie to Charlie saying that Rob wouldn't be on the show. Yeah.
So you thought Charlie wouldn't come back if she had known that Rob was going to come back to the show, is that correct?
Yeah.
And now, you assisted with most of the sabotages, correct?
That is correct.
And you let some of the contestants bend some of the sabotage rules, right?
I did.
And you were touring the final challenge course with Charlie Martin when she put the cleaner into Rob's mask, is that correct?
I wasn't aware of any of the existence of the cleaner until the investigation. So I wasn't exactly aware. There was an instance where I was with Ms. Martin with the equipment at the final challenge. I unfortunately had to take a phone call as my father was in the hospital. I walked away. When I returned, Charlie winked at me saying, I did it, you're welcome.
Alright. Now, it was yours and the productions team's responsibility to check over all the equipment, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, you neglected this responsibility.
As I said, I had to take that phone call. My father was in the hospital. I'm not proud that I did it, but nonetheless, I needed to take that phone call. But I did mention to Charlie before we went to the equipment that the sabotage could only be limited to 15 pounds of weight, as any extra weight could tamper with the calibration of the air tanks, as if Rob was overexerted, he may use up more air.
Redirecting you back to my question, you did neglect that responsibility.
To a degree.
Now, I'd like to talk about the day of the final challenge. You'd agree that you destroyed the footage.
As I stated on direct examination. I was nervous about what Charlie may have done that I wasn't aware of. My executive producer, Reese Crump, also had told me to delete the footage as well.
So after Mr. Armstrong's death, you ran into the master recording room and deleted all of the challenge footage from that day, correct?
Objection asked and answered. My witness has said over and over that they did delete the footage.
Sustained.
Now, after you deleted that, you deleted a little more?
Objection asked and answered. Still deleted the footage.
Sustained.
Now, but you would, one final question. You would agree everything that you could access was deleted off the computer?
Correct.
Thank you, no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, I just asked that my witness be allowed to step down.
Please step down. Prosecution have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the prosecution rests its case in chief.
We'll take some time for a break. 5 minutes?
We have enough time.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Yeah, because I haven't set the start time, so I don't know like when it will start.
Seated. Defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Call your first witness.
Defense calls Charlie Martin to the stand.
You may proceed.
Good morning. Could you please state your name for the court?
Good morning. My name is Charlie Martin.
And Miss Martin, during the spring of 2025, what is it that you were doing?
I was a contestant on season 10 of The Saboteurs.
And was this your first time on the Saboteurs?
No, I had been on season 2 as well.
And how come you ended up back?
Well, season 10 was an all-star season, so some of us who were pretty popular were invited back. I was pretty popular from season 2, so was Rob Armstrong.
What do you mean by popular?
Well, the internet kind of blew up after what happened on season 2.
And what happened on season 2, Miss Martin?
Rob and I, we were saboteurs together. We were teammates. I thought we were gonna win the competition together, but Rob ended up betraying me and humiliating me at the end.
And what do you mean by betrayed?
Rob told everybody else that I was a saboteur, so that he could get me voted out, and he could take all the money for himself, and he'd be the winner, and I'd walk away the loser.
And how did this betrayal affect you?
Pretty badly. It kept replaying over and over again in my mind at first. Every time I tried to get back to normal life, I would see the mocking tweets, the death threats. It was even hard to get a job at first because it felt like everybody knew about it and everybody hated me. They even went after my mom, and and she had a heart attack from it.
And so, after all of this, Miss Martin, what made you come back?
Well, at first I didn't want to come back. I never wanted to be anywhere near the saboteurs again.
So, what changed?
Well, Riley Kay, who I thought was a good friend at the time, ended up convincing me. He said that season 2 was bad, but
Objection, hearsay.
Wish to be heard?
If I may respond, Your Honor. We are not using this for the truth of the matter, rather the effect on the listener and how Riley Kay saying this to Miss Martin influenced her to make the decision to come back on the show.
Response?
I stand by my objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Okay, circling back to that question I just asked you, why did you change your mind?
well, Riley Kay convinced me. He told me that season 2 was awful for me, but on season 10 I could redeem myself and I could win and Rob could lose, and I just wanted to redeem myself after all that happened on season 2, and he made it seem like that could all happen on season 10.
And when did you first meet Mr. K?
I met him on season 2 of The Saboteur. He was an assistant at the time, so we saw each other a lot, and he was really nice to me.
And did you two remain in contact after season 2?
Yeah, we would talk almost every night. We had gotten pretty close, or at least I thought.
And did Mr. K tell you that Rob would be returning for season 10?
No, I never would have agreed to go on if I had known Rob would be there.
And how did you react when you found out Mr. Armstrong would be back on the show?
Well, I called Riley and I said I didn't want to do it anymore. That I wanted to get out of it, because if Rob was on there, then he could be the winner again and I would still be the loser, and it would just happen all over again.
And so, once again, why did you decide to return?
Riley told me that if I backed out, I would be a coward and it would be awful for me, and I believed him.
And now I want to talk about the actual filming and events of season 10. How did it feel seeing Mr. Armstrong again?
It was awful. It was like being back on season 2 all over again. I wanted to get out of there at first.
And was there anything that helped you through this season?
Yes, Riley helped me. I would see him often, and he would smile at me when I looked nervous, or say something comforting if he could. I would even go to him worried that I wasn't gonna win or something like that, and he would just tell me, just keep doing new sabotages, things of that nature. And he would assure me that the sabotages were strong enough and that they would work and things like that.
And now I want to discuss the sabotage that took place during the final challenge. Why did you pick Mr. Armstrong to sabotage?
Well, Rob had told me that he suspected that I was a saboteur, and so I got worried that it was all going to happen again the same way it happened on season 2, and he was going to tell everyone and get me voted out again, so I had to get immunity in the challenge. And he was the best athletically, so he was the natural person I had to slow down.
And what did you do to slow Mr. Armstrong down?
I put a little bit of floor cleaner into his scuba mask that he was going to use for the competition.
And did Riley K approve of the sabotage?
Well, he didn't approve exactly, but he didn't disapprove. I had held up the floor cleaner to him and I asked, do you think this would work? And he said it would work. And I said, should I do it? And he said, well, you won't win unless you do something strong.
And Miss Martin, why, out of all things, floor cleaner?
Well, I had it on me at the time because, well, one day Riley had brought me wine and he had also brought me Strawberry the cat because I like Strawberry. I was upset. And Strawberry knocked over the wine after Riley left and the wine spilled on the floor and I had to clean it up really quickly. So I asked what the floor cleaner was and I used it and I still have the floor cleaner from that.
And did you think that this floor cleaner could be dangerous?
I just thought that he would smell it because it smelled really bad when I was cleaning up the wine stain. So I thought that he would just smell it and that he wouldn't wear the mask because, like the doctor said, it was not that deep and he had done a scuba challenge without using a mask at all. So I just thought that he would smell it and he would choose not to wear the mask and he'd be slowed down because he'd have to come up for air.
So, Miss Martin, let me ask you again. Did you think this floor cleaner had the potential to kill Mr. Armstrong?
No, I never would have done it if I thought it could kill him.
And now, one last question, Miss Martin. Did you intend to inflict harm on Mr. Armstrong?
I wanted to hurt him emotionally, but I never wanted this to happen, and I never would have done it if I had thought that this would happen.
Thank you, Miss Martin. No further questions.
Cross-examination?
May I proceed?
Yes.
You were a contestant on season 2, correct?
Yeah, I was.
This is where you met Rob Armstrong,
Yes.
who betrayed you at the end of the season.
Yes.
A betrayal that was aired year after year,
It was pretty often, yeah.
causing the pain to only grow, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, at first it was really bad.
And because of this, you wanted revenge on Rob, right?
Yeah, I wanted to humiliate him on TV like he did to me.
Now, because you were on the show prior to season 10, you knew how the rules and challenges worked, right?
I mean, they made changes occasionally, but generally, yeah, I knew how everything worked.
Objection to speculation. May I be heard?
Yes.
Just because Miss Martin was on a previous season does not mean she knew how the rules would be constructed in season 10. It was 8 seasons later, the rules and production can change from that time forward. So in order for her to answer that question, she would be speculating to something that's out of the scope of her knowledge.
Wish to be heard?
Your Honor, I could lay some more foundation if we do not believe that there is enough knowledge present.
Sustain, lay the foundation.
All right. Safety briefings are conducted during the show, correct?
Yes, they are.
These were also done during season 10.
Yeah, they were.
So you were well aware that safety was not only the responsibility of production, but contestants as well.
Yes, contestants were supposed to do things like signal when they needed help or things like that.
You're a bit of a radio buff, right?
I wouldn't, perhaps.
Yes or no, you're a radio buff?
Sure, I'm a radio buff.
That's why you decided to go and mess with production's walkie-talkies before the final challenge, right?
I didn't really mean to mess with anything. I got nervous, so I started, fidgeting with the radio.
Equipment that you knew you weren't allowed to be touching anyways.
Yeah, I typically wasn't supposed to be touching the radios, but Riley would always, let me get away with things. He gave me a phone. He would encourage me to do informal sabotages. He would turned a blind eye when I broke the rules occasionally, so I figured it was okay.
And later on, one of the divers' walkie-talkies was found without a battery, right?
Yes, but I had nothing to do with that.
Let's talk about the final challenge now. The sabotage was supposed to be adding an extra 10 pounds of weight to Rob's backpack for the land portion, correct?
Yeah, that was the formal sabotage.
And you were left alone with the equipment.
I was, yeah. Riley had stepped away for a few minutes, but he was still pretty close.
And while alone, you decided to take your backpack's weights out,
Yes, I did.
add them to Rob's backpack,
Yeah, I figured he was, he was almost like it seemed like he was a professional athlete at times. I figured he would be fine with a little extra weight.
along with the intended 10 pounds for the sabotage,
Yes.
making his backpack weigh 30 pounds instead of the intended 20.
Yeah, I figured that even if it was 20, it may not even slow him down that much because he was just so big and strong and athletic. So I raised it.
There was also scuba equipment there, correct?
Yeah,
And is it true you're scuba certified?
I am scuba certified.
So you're well familiar with this equipment.
I'm familiar with scuba equipment.
You watched the footage of Rob completing the underwater portion of the challenge, right?
Yes, I did.
And you knew that for this portion of the challenge, the air tanks had a total of 30 minutes of air.
Yes.
And he was underwater for a maximum of like 20 minutes.
Probably about that.
Only 15 minutes of those did he actually have the scuba mask on his face.
Yes, that's how it ended up playing out. He ended up wearing the mask.
Meaning for a portion of the time, he wasn't even using the oxygen.
Yes, that's true.
So with that math, 30 minutes minus the 15, that should be 15 minutes left of air, right?
Well, maybe, but he also could have been breathing heavily and things like that. I don't really know about how heavy or if he's breathing to use more air,
But you're scuba certified.
yes, I'm certified in scuba
Objection to asked and answered. Opposing counsel already made clear that Ms. Martin is scuba certified.
I can reword my question, Your Honor.
Sustained, reword.
You're scuba certified, yet you don't know how heavy breathing will affect the air in an air tank?
I know that it will affect the air in the air tank. I know that you use up more air when you're breathing heavily. But I can't give you certain numbers about exactly how much would have been used up.
It's fine. Either way, Rob's air tank was found without any air at all, correct?
It was.
You know the chemical oxalic acid.
Yeah, that's the floor cleaner.
You were using it the night before the final challenge.
Yes.
For a wine spill,
Yeah.
and you had it on you when you went to perform the sabotage.
I did. I still had it then.
But you also knew this chemical prior to this, right?
I mean, I can't say I was very familiar with it prior.
Your Honor, permission to approach opposing counsel.
Yes,
Let the record reflect I'm approaching opposing counsel with what's been previously marked as Exhibit 14. Permission to approach the witness.
yes, you may.
Let the record reflect I'm approaching the witness with the same.
Thank you.
Your Honor, would you like to
Yes.
a copy?
Thank you.
I just handed you a material safety data sheet for the chemical oxalic acid, correct?
That's what it looks like, but I've never seen it before.
You've never seen it before?
I haven't read it. so I-
Objection to hearsay. This material data sheet is an out-of-court document being brought into court.
Wish to be heard?
Your Honor, I haven't tried bringing it into the court yet. I'm just trying to lay the foundation that the witness even knows what this document is in the first place.
Overruled.
So, you do or don't know what this document is?
I know what the document is, but I haven't read it before.
It was downloaded onto your phone.
It was, but I don't remember downloading it. I probably clicked something and it downloaded. I didn't read it.
And you read things downloaded onto your phone, don't you?
I read things that I
Objection.
download onto my phone.
Lack of foundation. There is no foundation being provided for the the defendant reading things on their phone. I mean, that's an extremely vague statement. Anyone can be reading things on their phone. And I'd ask that more foundation be laid.
I think that she's trying to do that, so you're premature with your objection. Overruled.
When you download things onto your phone, you read them, right?
Yes, when I intentionally download something onto my phone, of course I read it.
And this was downloaded from the Midlands Product Safety Commission, right?
Yes.
Your Honor, prosecution moves Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Submitted.
Now, looking under health hazard information in the section about inhalation, it says hazard, severe respiratory irritant, right?
That's what it says.
It also says chronic exposure may result in damage to lungs, kidneys, and the nervous system, correct?
Yes, it says that.
The bottle of oxalic acid you received from the cleaning closet had a warning label on it, correct?
It had a label on it, yeah.
Your Honor, permission to approach opposing counsel?
Yes.
Let the record reflect on approaching opposing counsel with what's been previously marked as Exhibit 13, which has already been entered into evidence. Permission to approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Let the record reflect I am handing the witness the same. I just handed you the warning label for the oxalic acid, correct?
Yeah.
Now on the front of it, it says, warning, harmful if swallowed or inhaled, right?
Yeah, it does say that, but it's so small I doubt you'd be able to read it on a container.
It also says, do not make contact with skin.
Yes, it says that.
And you read these warnings because you wanted to make sure you were using it properly, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you clean up a spill, you want to make sure you're using the right thing and that you're using it right.
Now turn to the back. Under use precautions, it says avoid breathing dust or mist, correct?
Yeah, that's what it says.
And that this inhalation of dust or vapors may cause coughing, choking, chest pain, or delayed lung injury.
Yeah, that's what it says, but I mean, when I cleaned my room with it, I was fine.
Later on in that use precautions list, it also says do not use in confined or enclosed spaces, right?
Yes, it says that.
Now, when you decided to put the oxalic acid into Rob's scuba mask, you put it in the tiny little spot meant for the microphones, right?
Yeah, I put it up over there.
A spot you knew wouldn't have the microphones, right?
Yes.
A spot that assumably stays dry to keep the microphones safe under the water, correct?
Yes, but I put it in there more so it wouldn't fall out in case someone moved it before the challenge began.
And would you say a scuba mask is a confined, enclosed space?
If you will it, yes, but again, I didn't think he was going to will it. I thought he was just going to smell it and then discard it.
But you didn't want anyone to notice that the oxalic acid was there.
I more so put it in that specific pocket so that it wouldn't be moved in case maintenance or someone moved it before the challenge.
And even then, you still put multiple scoops of the oxalic acid into this mask.
Well, yeah, I mean, it came with this little scoop that was really small, and so I didn't fill all the scoops all the way. I just kind of like put a little bit in there.
Turn back to the warning label. It says the scoop size is 1 gram, correct?
Where does it say that?
On the back of the label, I'm sorry. How to
yes.
use.
Says that, yes.
Yes. And you use multiple scoops of that.
Multiple scoops that were not all fully filled up, but yeah, multiple scoops.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Can you redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Martin, I want to talk about the label on the bottle of oxalic acid a little more. Did you read the full thing in its entirety?
I didn't read all of it. I I glanced at it to make sure that I would be, safe using it and to see that it was oxalic acid and things like that.
And when you were using it, did you experience any adverse side effects?
No, I didn't, and I'm pretty sure I used more when I was cleaning than I put in the mask, and I was fine.
And I want to bring up that 1 gram scoop. On the label of the oxalic acid, it says use 1 gram scoop included for easy measurement. But does that mean that 1 gram of oxalic acid would be hazardous?
I didn't take it that way.
Objection, Your Honor. This calls for expert testimony.
Mr. Reed,
Yes, Your Honor. I will rephrase my question.
sustain, rephrase.
And Miss Martin, did you think that 1 gram from that scoop of oxalic acid could fatally hurt Mr. Armstrong?
No, of course I didn't. It said easy measurement. I just assumed that people often want to use just a gram for one thing or another, or measure out how many grams they want to use.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Martin. No further questions.
You can step down.
Motion to retreat.
Yes. Next witness.
Sorry, yes, the defense calls Dr. Michael Lind to the stand.
You may proceed.
Please state your name for the court.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Michael Lynn.
And what do you do for a living, Dr. Lynn?
Well, I'm Chief Clinical Psychologist at the FEC, or Forensic Evaluation Center, and I've been so for the past 5 years.
What's your educational background?
Forgive me, it's been a while, but I have a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Carnegie Mellon University, a Doctorate of Psychology from Pepperdine University, and I also did a postdoctoral fellowship at Goldstad Center.
How did you become involved in today's case?
The defense counsel asked me to psychologically evaluate Miss Martin for trial today.
Well, what did you review in preparation for today?
I reviewed several things, including the Season 2 and Season 10 reports of Charlie Martin from Selkoff Studios, the Season 2 and Season 10 footage, as well as the physiological reports of Charlie Martin and Rob Armstrong, which showed that they had no health conditions.
Was there enough evidence for you to provide a reliable conclusion?
Yes, there was.
Did you use a method in today's case?
Yes, we at the FEC use the REC method, REC. The R in REC stands for review, E stands for evaluation or examination, and C stands for conclusion.
Was this method standard in your field?
Yes, it's the gold standard in my field.
Did you reliably apply this method to today's case?
Yes, I did.
I want to talk about this method. What did it show about Charlie Martin?
Well, in using this method, I started with the R, which is review. So I ended up reviewing all the evidence, and what stood out to me were the Season 2 and Season 10 evaluations of Charlie Martin.
Would you recognize a copy of this if I showed it to you today?
Yes, I would.
Permission to approach opposing counsel and the witness in turn with
Granted.
what is, okay. No.
Thank you.
Would you like a courtesy copy?
Yes,
Your Honor?
thank you.
What have I just handed you?
These are the Season
season 2 and season 10 reports of Charlie Martin. They're a psychological assessment that was run by Selkoff Studios prior to these 2 seasons.
Is it fair and accurate to the last time you saw it?
Yes, it is.
Permission to submit Exhibit 26 A and B into evidence.
Any objections?
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Wish to be heard?
Yes, this specifically falls under Rule 703, basis of an expert's opinion testimony. That's on page 10 of the MRE. This says that an expert may base opinion on facts and data in the case that the expert has been made aware of or personally observed. And basically says that if they use this to make their conclusion, they do not need to be admissible for the opinion to be admitted. So they can talk about it and it can be admitted because she testified earlier that she relied on it for her testimony today.
Wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. The expert may have relied on this document for her testimony outside of court. However, it is still an outside of court document being offered in court. Therefore, it is still hearsay.
You said 703?
Yes, Rule 703, basis of an expert's opinion testimony.
Sustained.
Permission to approach and
Yes.
be retrieved.
Yes.
Moving on, what did this show about Charlie Martin?
Both of those psychological reports.
Objection, Your Honor. The exhibit was not entered into evidence the witness is now testifying to their knowledge.
May I respond?
Yes.
The question may have been the same, but the witness has not laid any testimony about this evidence.
Therefore, it would be vague.
Sustained. Rephrase.
Did you do an evaluation of Charlie Martin?
Yes, that was the next step in the REC method. I examined Charlie Martin and I noticed that Ms. Martin actually exhibited some emotional control issues, and I thought there might be something underlying that would be causing that.
Well, what was this issue that you thought might be underlying?
Well, I specialized in several mental disorders during my postdoctoral fellowship, and one of those was actually PTSD. So I thought that might have been the root cause of some of Ms. Martin's behavioral issues.
What is PTSD?
PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a mental disorder that's categorized by nightmares and, nightmares and repeated unwanted recollections and memories of the event. It's reoccurring and caused by a traumatic event, and it can last for over a few days after said traumatic event.
Do you know how Charlie Martin might have developed PTSD?
Yes, based on what I reviewed, I believe that the traumatic event would have been her betrayal on season 2 at the hands of Rob Armstrong. This is evident in the language she used, shifting from before the betrayal from more positive language to using more negative language when discussing after the betrayal.
What does this show?
This shows that Miss Martin most likely had PTSD, and as a result of that had depression, anxiety, and emotional instability.
What did that mean for the show?
So on the show, Miss Martin was cast as a saboteur. This role would have likely led her to take much more risks with the contestants, as well as that production could often have direct, often unfilmed contact with her, which they could have used as a way to potentially manipulate trauma.
Objection, speculation as to what production would have used with their actions.
Wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. This witness has testified to evaluating many documents as well as doing an evaluation of Charlie Martin. This testimony has to do specifically with the evaluation of Charlie Martin and how Charlie Martin felt. Whether the production actually manipulated isn't important in today's case, but rather how Charlie Martin felt, which is absolutely within her scope as an expert witness.
May I respond?
Yes.
The expert is certainly welcome to testify as to what the expert relied on in her testimony. However, the expert is speculating as to what production did based on what production observed. An expert doctor cannot get into the minds of production.
Sustained.
What does this, sorry. Do you know what happened with Charlie Martin on the show?
Yes, as I was saying, Miss Martin had been betrayed by Rob Armstrong on season 2 of the show. This is what I believe to have been the cause of her PTSD.
Well, did this lead to anything during her time on the show?
Yes, this would have likely led to a temporary break in reality, and I believe this was caused by 2 factors.
What were these 2 factors?
Well, one, Miss Martin was more susceptible to manipulation due to this. Second of all, her likely break in reality would have led her to believe that Rob Armstrong would have been safe.
Thank you, no further questions.
Cross-examine.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Dr. Lynn, you are here because this case was referred to the Forensic Evaluation Center by a private party.
Oh, that's correct.
And you were paid $750 per hour for your time spent evaluating the case.
Well, yes, I do need to get paid.
Yep, and you spent about 10 hours evaluating.
That is correct.
So for you to come testify, you were also offered by the defense $10,000 for your travel, trial preparation, and testimony.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
You are being paid $10,000 for your trial preparation, testimony, and travel.
That's correct. Again, I do need to get paid.
And you are being paid a large sum of money to be here today.
It's for my hard work.
Okay, so moving on to your evaluation, that your hard work you did was, you evaluated the defendant.
Yes, I did.
You did so through interviews and psychological testing.
Yes, I used several documents.
However, the interviews and psychological testing only went for about 6.5 hours.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The interviews and psychological testing you did only went for about 6.5 hours.
I wouldn't use the word only, but it did go on for 6.5 hours.
So that's a yes to my question, 6.5 hours.
Yes.
And the sole purpose of that evaluation was to assist in determining viable legal defenses for trial.
I mean, I also conducted a competency assessment, but that was part of it, yes.
And it wasn't actually to specifically identify the defendant's potential participation in the death of Rob Armstrong.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
It wasn't to determine the defendant's potential participation in the death of Rob Armstrong.
No, it wasn't.
Now, your focus is on clinical and forensic psychology.
That is correct.
And typically, your evaluations are for competency and insanity-based defenses.
Yes, we do both of those at the FEC.
So you did review Selkov Studio's psychological assessment,
Yes, that is correct.
and you believe it to be true.
Yes, I do.
Now, it showed that, as you said, the defendant experienced trauma from the show.
Objection, Your Honor. That's evidence. May I?
Yes.
This evidence that I just tried to submit did not make it into evidence. So for them to be talking about the contents of Exhibit 26 is not allowed because it is not in evidence.
May I respond?
Yes.
I'm not trying to offer the exhibit into evidence. As I stated when I objected to that, the doctor is welcome to testify to her conclusions regarding outside observations of materials she used.
May I respond?
Yes.
This question just asked about this psychological assessment report and if that led her to believe that season 2 was the cause of her trauma. This is absolutely talking about the contents of this exhibit.
I'm not trying to offer this exhibit into evidence.
Overruled.
So you believe them to be true?
Yes, I do.
And they showed that the defendant did experience trauma from the show.
They showed that she was exhibiting several symptoms from a wide variety of disorders, including PTSD.
PTSD as well as OCPD.
That is correct.
which is a disorder that causes people to obsess over control.
Yes, that is true.
So, due to these findings, you suggested that the defendant be closely monitored.
That's what Selkoff Studios suggested. I was not the one to run those psychological reports.
But due to those findings, you were also concerned about these traumas that the defendant experienced.
Yes, I was.
And it was believed that the strong shift, as you said, of the defendant's psychological health between seasons 2 and 10 were due to Rob Armstrong's eliminating the defendant.
That's correct.
And the public humiliation that followed.
Yes, I believe that would have been part of the reason why Miss Martin has PTSD.
And the OCPD, the obsession over being eliminated by Rob Armstrong.
That would be part of it.
You did not contact anyone from the show throughout your investigation.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
You did not contact anyone from the show throughout your investigation.
I contacted Miss Martin, but I did not contact anyone else.
I'm sorry, I will specify. From production.
From production, yes.
You also tried to contact defense counsel throughout your investigation
Yes, I did.
and were unsuccessful.
That is correct.
Now, when the defendant came to you, she stated that she was not sexually abused as a child,
Yes, that's correct.
showed no developmental disabilities,
That's true.
had no intellectual disabilities,
Yes,
had no contact with the criminal justice system,
that is correct.
had never been psychiatrically hospitalized,
Yes,
did not have any physical health issues,
yes.
so the previously mentioned traumas would not have altered her state at the time of Rob Armstrong's death.
I'm sorry.
Objection, Your Honor, to substantially more misleading than probative. May I be heard?
Yes.
This, the question that was just asked said that, Charlie Martin's diagnosis would not have affected her during the time of Rob Armstrong's death, but this witness has already testified that her conclusion was that Miss Martin likely had a temporary break from reality during that time.
May I respond?
Yes.
This witness just answered yes to all of my questions, stating that she did not believe when she observed the witness that the that the defendant exhibited any of those.
Overruled cross-examination.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
The previously mentioned traumas would not have altered the state of the defendant at the time of Rob Armstrong's death.
I'm sorry, could you rephrase? I'm not entirely sure.
I previously had asked you if the defendant experienced any traumas. I listed them out and you said that the defendant did not experience those traumas. Therefore, those traumas would not have affected them at the time of Rob Armstrong's death.
There were no listed traumas other than that. However, I do believe that her time on season 2 of The Saboteur, specifically her betrayal, would have resulted in PTSD.
I'm asking you about the traumas I specifically asked you about.
None of those because she didn't have any of those.
Now, during your evaluation, the defendant said that she was, quote, being accused of killing Rob Armstrong.
That is true.
To which she said, without prompting, quote, I was just trying to win the game.
That is correct.
You also observed during your evaluation that the defendant exhibited emotional control issues.
Yes, that is what I stated. I do believe that is due to her PTSD.
And as you stated, these could be mood swings.
Potentially.
They could be quick changes from calm to fear and anger.
Yes.
And these mood swings during your evaluation did occur during the defendant's discussing of Rob Armstrong.
Yes, specifically more so towards the talking about after season 2.
They were about Rob Armstrong, though.
Yes.
The defendant said that she had originally had a good relationship with Armstrong.
Yes, she initially used positive language to describe him.
Then, when talking about the end of and after season 2, the defendant referred to Armstrong as a weasel.
Yes, this is part of the reason that I suspected that she might have PTSD, and that was the cause.
She even said, quote, backstabber,
That is true.
and, quote, narcissist,
That was some of the language she used.
and, quote, vain,
That is correct.
and, quote, evil,
Yes,
and said, quote, it was all a lie in reference to Armstrong.
that is correct.
The defendant said Armstrong, quote, embarrassed her on a global stage,
That is what she said.
and said her feelings towards Armstrong were, quote, loathing.
That is what she referred to them as.
In reference to season 10, the defendant said she was, quote, tired of losing,
Yes, that is correct.
quote, tired of being the butt of everyone's jokes.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
She said, quote, she was tired of being the butt of everyone's jokes.
That is what she said.
Said she, quote, wanted to win,
She did.
and to, quote, teach Armstrong a lesson,
Yes, that is correct.
as well as wanted him, quote, eliminated from the game.
Yes.
And she said she, quote, wanted Armstrong murdered.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
She said she, quote, wanted Armstrong murdered.
Well, yes, but in the context of the game, from what I'm aware, murder means elimination.
But the answer to my question is that was her quote. She wanted Armstrong murdered.
That was her wording.
And the defendant said that the point of the saboteurs was to hurt people.
That is what she believed.
Now, you conducted a Big Five inventory overview of the defendant,
Yes, I did.
through which you found that the defendant had no problem recalling the events of season 10,
That is what I concluded based on those results.
as well as no problem recalling her role in sabotaging Rob Armstrong,
Yes, that is correct.
which, as you said, caused concern to you about the defendant's impulse control.
Yes, that is correct.
You also noted that the defendant voluntarily joined season 10 of the game show,
Yes, that would be true.
and the defendant was not in fear of physical harm from anyone on season 10 when sabotaging Armstrong.
Not in fear of physical harm specifically, yes.
The scores also indicated that the defendant was able to appreciate the potential harm to Armstrong that she was creating.
Yes, however, due to her likely break in reality, she might not have thought Rob Armstrong would, she thought that Rob Armstrong would have most likely been safe.
But those scores showed that she was able to appreciate the potential harm she was causing to Rob Armstrong.
That is what the score showed.
They also indicated that she was in control of her behavior.
That is true.
Now, as you stated, her trauma could cause her to be manipulative.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
As you stated, her trauma, OCPD, PTSD, could cause her to be manipulative.
I stated on direct that it would cause her to be easily manipulated, not manipulative.
And could cause her to act in a way that would harm others.
That is true.
Specifically, if she knew it would benefit her.
That was due to her PTSD.
And specifically, if she knew it would harm Armstrong.
That is correct.
Ultimately, you found that the defendant suffers from severe depression.
That was one of the things, yes.
And anxiety.
That is correct.
And emotional instability.
Yes.
Due to PTSD.
That is correct.
Which was caused by the events of season 2.
Yes, specifically the betrayal by Rob Armstrong.
Which was when the defendant was voted off the show by Rob Armstrong.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, briefly. This evaluation and everything said within it what did it lead you to believe?
It led me to believe that Miss Martin would have been easily manipulated due to her PTSD and also likely have a break in reality, which would have led her to believe Rob Armstrong would be safe.
Thank you, no further questions.
May step down. Call your next witness.
Yes, defense calls Indigo Quaid to the stand.
You may proceed.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
Good afternoon. My name is Indigo Quaid. I was the host of the game show The Saboteurs. I'm an entertainer by trade, but that's about me.
Could you please describe the show The Saboteurs to the court?
Yeah, so if you've ever seen the Wii show Survivor, it's quite like that. We've just added a little twist to get some more drama. Essentially what we've done is we've taken 3 competitors that we've selected and given them the ability to sabotage other contestants. So they have a special opportunity to get in a meeting room together, talk with the production, and then alter the game's course.
What were these sabotages like?
Well, typically they were small things, so it would be something like putting hot sauce in somebody's coffee. They had potential to be a little bit harmful to a competitor's advantage, such as one time somebody took a bike chain off of a bike during a race, and then they had to walk all the way back for supper, about 5 miles.
Now, I want to talk about the defendant. Did you have any concerns with Charlie Martin coming back to the show?
Well, so when we had discussed doing an All-Star season, I brought the idea up, but I said I'd like to do a pre-show interview with each of them because it's been such a long time since some of them had been on the show. And so I did one with Charlie Martin, and some of the things that she said were very concerning to me.
What did you do after hearing this?
Well, so I had talked to Charlie in this interview. It was all on cameras, and she said some things. I believe one of them was, "This has been haunting me ever since," referring to.
Wish to be heard?
Yes, one moment. the quote, please?
This has been haunting me ever since. Charlie said that in the interview.
Yes, Your Honor. We're not necessarily offering this for the truth of the matter, but just to show what was being stated at this time, to show why my defendant would have concerns about Charlie Martin coming back to the show.
Sustained.
Now, I'm just gonna repeat my question. What did you do after hearing this?
Well, as I had said, I had heard some pretty disturbing things. Charlie had said some things that I wasn't so sure.
Objection, hearsay.
Wish to be heard?
What are you objecting to? Can you?
Any statements?
Okay. Again, Your Honor, I repeat that we're not offering these for the truth of the matter, but we're offering them simply to show why my client was concerned with.
Sustained.
Just gonna move on. Now, did Riley K ever show you the psych evaluation that was done on Charlie Martin?
Well, so after I brought my concerns to Riley K, I filled out all the HR paperwork. There's about 1 million pages of it. Spent the whole afternoon doing it. And I brought my concerns to her, and all she said was Charlie had seen a shrink and that I wasn't to worry about it.
Objection, hearsay.
Wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. Again, my client is just simply stating this to show why they have the concerns with it.
Sustained.
Move to strike.
Granted.
Just gonna move on again. Did Riley K ever tell you that Charlie had traits consistent with OCPD?
I don't even know what that is, so I'm gonna go ahead and say no.
Did Riley ever tell you that Charlie had traits consistent with PTSD?
Up until the beginning of this,
Objection, hearsay.
Wish to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. What exactly you're saying you're objecting to?
The questions are calling for hearsay. They're asking what Riley K said, if any.
Your Honor, I'm not asking for what Charlie K said, I'm just asking for what my client was aware of, what they were.
Sustained.
Motion to strike.
Granted.
Now, were you ever made aware that Charlie should be heavily monitored when interacting with Robert Armstrong?
no, I was not. As I was saying, I had heard that there was a psychological evaluation done, and that there was some things of PTSD, and some other things as well, but nobody ever told me to do anything about it.
Objection, hearsay to the PTSD and the OCPD.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm again offering this not for the truth of the matter that Charlie had PTSD, but to just show what my client was aware of at the time and what their concerns were.
Sustained.
Motion to strike.
Granted.
Now I want to talk about the show itself. Can you describe what it means to be good reality TV?
Of course. So when you're doing reality TV, when you're in this business, you have to get good ratings. So one of the things that keeps shows running is if people watch them over and over and over again. And the Saboteurs had that. My mom would watch it all the way at 1 in the morning back in Scotland. And the other thing is I had to make the studio money. Didn't make any money, they weren't going to do it. And the only way that I've seen across my time to do that is with drama. And the Saboteurs does that really well. They take a popular show already, Survivor, and they make it even more popular by adding more drama, more backstabbing, more twists, etc.
Now, how did the ratings for the show start out?
Well, during the first season, it was a pilot, so you never know how it's going to go. It did fairly well. It got renewed. By the time it hit season 2, it had peaked, so it was about like a 9.8, which is really good for a second season of the show. And I personally believe that this is because of the famous rivalry between Rob and Charlie. There was a super famous scene. It was all over the internet. One of them said, "You've sealed my fate." Went so viral, so popular. It was on memes, t-shirts. It was truly just everywhere. Resurfaced every time the new season came out.
And after season 2, how did this success carry over to the next few seasons?
Well, it was riding on that success for a while. The following seasons, 3, 4, and 5, kind of were a little bit lower, but they were still good. It was what to be expected. By the time it hit season 6 and 7, it kind of dropped off a bit. It wasn't doing so good. The production was really trying to find ways to boost the ratings back up.
Now, you mentioned boosting the ratings. Were there ever any ideas or plans put into place to boost the ratings?
Actually, I did have an idea myself. Very proud of it. I said, what if we did an all-star season? I thought this was amazing. It's fantabulous. We take every season's favorite competitor and we put them all in one season. What's not to love? We just take all of it and mash it together. And so I brought that to Rayleigh Cake, and lo and behold, here we are. It happened. We've had the season. It was fantabulous.
Now, how was it getting all the previous stars back on the show?
Well, between myself and production, we did a lot of phone calls, called people, talked to people. Some were pretty easy to get back on. They wanted the fame, the money, the possible payout. Others were a bit more challenging, I'd say.
Can you elaborate more? Like, who was more challenging to get back on the show?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. Charlie was quite a bit difficult to get back on the show. You see, she didn't really want to come because she'd been humiliated, and she was afraid that if she came
Objection,
back.
hearsay.
Can you elaborate clearer?
The witness is giving reasons for Charlie Martin to not want to be back on the show. These will be statements.
Wish to be heard?
Yes. This is far within my witness's rational-based perception to see why Charlie Martin would be more reluctant to coming back onto the show.
Overruled.
Did you want to finish or do you want me to ask?
If you'd re-ask it, that would be
Of course. So why did it take so much effort to get Charlie back on the show?
Well, in my conversations and on the phone, to me, she seemed very hesitant to come back. I can't blame her. I mean, I could imagine that the humiliation, I mean, getting broadcast on live TV year after year after year, being humiliated. I mean, I can't imagine wanting to come back. And I know that when I was talking to her, it seemed like she really didn't want to come on with Rob Armstrong. And so I'll admit, I know that production had done some things that seemed a little bit shady, like maybe not telling the whole side of the story to everybody. But eventually they were kind of able to get her very hesitantly to agree to come back, even with Rob on the show.
Thank you, Ms. Quaid. No further questions at this time.
Cross-examine?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes.
So you mentioned earlier that most of the sabotages on the show prior to season 10 were very small things.
I mean, yes, usually. Typically they had to be approved by production first, so there were usually a set of 3 options, and the saboteurs would get to pick one. The 3 of them would come to a consensus. They would decide which contestant to go off on. But this season it was a little bit different. They've been giving the saboteurs a lot more leeway. The producers had been talking less and less and less about the rules and kind of giving more freedom for people to come up with it themselves.
Okay. But that's a yes to my question, right? Typically the sabotages are meant to be small inconveniences in the challenge.
In the past they had, but as I said, during season 10 it had kind of gone a little bit more than that.
This season 10 where somebody died?
Yes, I believe we're on trial for that.
Yes. Anyway, you were a child star growing up, correct?
That is correct.
But as you got older, gigs got tougher and tougher to come by?
Well, I mean, the thing with child actors is if you're cute, you get on a show. And I was a really cute baby. My mom has so many photos. So naturally, as you get older, I mean, everybody has that weird, like, awkward middle school phase. So, yeah, it was a little bit rougher, but, I mean, I'm doing all right now, so.
Yeah, because you got your big break with the saboteurs.
I was very excited when I was cast on season 5.
Yeah, and let's talk about how you got cast for a bit. You lied to get on the show, correct?
Okay. So, when you're filling out all the applications, you have to put down, like, all of this stuff. And technically, you had to be 18 to be on the show. And the problem is that I wasn't turning 18 until the day after my audition. So I lied and I fudged it a little bit. And I said that I was 18 on the day of the audition because I didn't want to be ruled out because it was going to be an amazing opportunity.
And you also lied about your background to get on the show?
Well, everybody lies about their background. If it was real, then you wouldn't be on reality TV.
I wouldn't say everybody was. And you also lied about your state of residence?
Yes, there was a bit of a mix-up. I didn't mean to lie, it was an accident. See, because I'm international, it has to do with the visas. So, my mum lives in Scotland, but my dad lives in the States, and so I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. That was an accident, I've talked about it with production.
After season 10 of The Saboteurs is over, you're not out of a job, correct?
Yes, so unfortunately after the tragic death of Mr. Armstrong, production had to cancel the rest of the season. They were very generous in giving us the rest of our contracts, but I do not have a job at the current moment.
Well, you're writing a book now, aren't you?
That's true, yes.
And the last chapter of this book is, you're writing this book about the events that we've been discussing all day.
I mean, yes, it's my life, so I decided I wanted to go into writing and write about it.
Yeah, and the last chapter with your testimony today is going to be the last chapter.
That's true. It'll happen either way, no matter the outcome of this trial. It might be a very boring chapter. Haven't written it yet.
Anyway, originally Rob was not supposed to be on season 10 of the Saboteurs, correct?
That's true. As I was talking about, when we were kind of figuring out who was going to come back, we had done some shuffling around. It was a question, it was up in the air whether or not Rob was going to come back. So originally he was not going to come back, but then plans changed. We were able to get him.
And when Rob came back, Charlie went ballistic, right?
It definitely was a reaction, but I don't think it was unfounded. I mean, she did call me, she was screaming, but to be fair, that was warranted. I mean, I had said one thing and then another thing happened, so I think she had the right to be upset. I would have been upset myself.
She was also upset because of the events of season 2,
Yes.
where Rob had won.
Yes.
So, Rob's a very athletic person, is he not?
Yes.
Yeah, he won season 2, he was on the verge of winning season 10.
I don't recall if the season 2 had to do with his physicality, but yes.
Well, the Saboteurs is a game show that includes physical athletic challenges that one must win in order to win the show.
I don't know that I would say that that's true. We've had some competitors in the past who are not the most physically adept. There's other elements. There's the emotional, there's the mental, there's strategic. Being physically strong does help, but I wouldn't say it's essential.
But Rob was in good health.
Yes.
He was winning the final challenge of the Saboteurs.
Which season?
The final challenge where Rob Armstrong passed away.
No, he was not winning actually. I believe Miss Martin had crossed the finish line when he was still underwater.
When you saw him, he was before Rob Armstrong went in the water. He was coming out of the woods first from the obstacle portion, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And being a physically fit individual, Rob put on his diving mask.
I mean, yes, the other contestants had done the same.
And then he coughed and spat something out after.
I believe so.
And then he went in the water.
Yes.
And he died and did not come back up.
Well, there was quite a bit that happened in the middle. I'll be honest, it was very, very scary to watch. There were a lot of efforts to send in a dive team.
But my question was, he died underwater after putting on his diving mask, taking it off, spitting and coughing, correct?
I don't believe that's the right order. I don't think he was coughing under the water. I believe he was coughing.
No, he was
before that.
coughing after he took off his diving mask.
And when he was under the water?
No, he wasn't, but he did die underwater.
Time. Thank you. Please step down.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll take 5 minutes, then we'll do, you have any other witnesses?
No, defense rests its case at this time.
Okay. Let's take 5 minutes?
We have 5 minutes.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Prosecution ready to close?
Yes, Your Honor.
Wait for the timekeeper.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No problem.
May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, members of the jury, opposing counsel, may it please the court. Danger dismissed, death delivered. This was a game show, a friendly competition, not supposed to be a game of life or death. But for the defendant, this went way farther than just a game show. She had previous animosity towards the victim and went on that game show to, quote, get back at Armstrong, to murder the victim. This case is about choices. Choices so reckless, the cost was the life of Rob Armstrong. The defendant in this case acted recklessly by disregarding the substantial and unjustifiable risk that would result from her actions. We, as the prosecution, must prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant's conduct was a gross deviation from the standard of conduct that a law-abiding person would exercise in her situation. This is a burden we readily accept, beyond a reasonable doubt, not a possible doubt, not speculation, but doubt solely grounded in the evidence. In order to meet our burden today, we needed to show you 4 things. First, that the defendant consciously disregarded a substantial and unjustifiable risk that would result from her conduct. Second, that such a conduct is a gross deviation from the standard of conduct that a law-abiding person would exercise in her situation. Third, that the result would not have occurred if it weren't for the defendant's actions. And lastly, that the risk was a natural and foreseeable result. The 4 requirements of our burden are like bullet points that must be checked off, and we checked off each of those bullet points today. First, that the defendant did consciously disregard the substantial and unjustifiable risk that would result from her conduct. You heard today from Riley Kay, who testified that Charlie asked for a phone to make requests to him. He then recalled the exact request of Charlie Martin for oxalic acid. He added more weight to the bag of Rob Armstrong than he had on his own back, putting him in a compromised state while competing. Do you really think that the defendant did not know what she was doing? Second, the conduct exercised by the defendant is a gross deviation from the standard of conduct that a law-abiding person would exercise in her position. You heard Rowan Patel say on the stand that after rechecking the grounds after the death, she found 20 extra pounds in Armstrong's backpack. You even heard Martin admit to having put these pounds in the backpack, which she knew she wasn't supposed to do. You heard Riley Kay tell you that he had multiple conversations with the defendant about the incredible danger of putting extra pounds and specifically telling the defendant not to add extra pounds. You heard Patel say that the defendant was holding the air tanks when she walked up to the defendant after the challenge. Later, Armstrong's air tank was found without air. It's up to you to connect the dots. The defendant took this even further when she put oxalic acid in the mask of Rob Armstrong. The bottle itself has a warning label. It's poison. It literally says, warning, harmful if swallowed or inhaled, do not make contact with skin, wear protective gear at all times. Harmful if swallowed or inhaled? She put it in the mask of someone that they would be inhaling while breathing underwater. As law-abiding citizens, would you put a highly dangerous chemical in a person's mask which they would be inhaling through? Third, that the result would not have occurred if it weren't for the defendant's actions. You heard that Martin was holding the air tanks that ran out of air, as well as Martin was messing with the walkie-talkies, which Patel later found without batteries after an attempt to contact the dive team went unanswered. All the defense had to offer you was a doctor who picked and chose which test they used. You heard Dr. Lynn say she ran a test that directly contradicted her other tests and ignored it. Not to mention Dr. Lynn being a highly biased expert that they hired to give testimony in their favor. To confirm that this result was due to the defendant's actions, Charlie Martin herself testified that she put oxalic acid in the mask that Rob Armstrong wore because it, quote, smelled. Do you really think the defendant only put oxalic acid in the mask because it smelled? It's a highly poisonous chemical. The cause of death is clear. It's up to you to decide who did it. Dr. Hartley even said Armstrong was in good health and that it is extremely unlikely Armstrong would have died in this way naturally. Lastly, we must have shown you that this risk was a natural and foreseeable result. Putting poison in someone's mask would reasonably cause them to drown. If common sense is not enough, Riley Kay himself testified that the show would absolutely not put poison in the mask of Rob Armstrong due to the incredibly dangerous risk. The cause of death, oxalic acid, is clear. The question for you, members of the jury, is who put it in the victim's mask? Charlie Martin committed this heinous crime. Midland's Penal Code states that a murder has occurred when it is committed recklessly under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to human life. We have proven to you today that such action has taken place. The defense said, don't punish the pawn. Pawns still take out players. In fact, let's break down what the defense did show you. Charlie sat up there on the stand and said, quote, when I cleaned my room with it, I was fine. Cleaning your room is very different from breathing it in through a mask. Charlie said herself, she, quote, wanted to hurt him. Certainly, the victim is deceased due to indifference. Charlie admitted to having done that. You heard Riley Kay and defense's own witness, Dr. Lamb, testify that the defendant stated she wanted to get back at Armstrong. Actions speak louder than words. Charlie's actions speak for themselves. The defense tried to create doubt within you today. However, in order for the defendant to be found not guilty, it must be beyond a reasonable doubt. Not possible doubt, not speculation, but doubt solely grounded in the evidence. This case is not a mysterious tragedy. The death of Rob Armstrong is due to the conscious disregard of Charlie Martin. This was supposed to be a fun game show, with some challenges to compete with, but not a challenge that would take the life of another person, not putting a highly dangerous poison in the victim's mask and adding an unbearable amount of weight to his back. A precious, valuable life has been taken. Family and friends are grieving, and a murderer is trying to justify her actions. Danger dismissed, death delivered. The evidence leads to only one reasonable conclusion. For all of those reasons, we the state ask you to return a verdict of guilty of murder, a felony of the first degree, in today's case. Thank you.
Yes. Closing by the defense.
May I ask how much time I have left?
7 minutes and 38 seconds.
May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. Don't punish the pawn. Throughout today's trial, the state has told you all about the defendant. They want you to believe that Charlie Martin lurked in the shadows, that she schemed to kill Rob Armstrong for 5 years. But members of the jury, make no mistake. They're trying to distract you. While the state has presented a fiction, I want to talk about the facts. The evidence the state wants you to ignore. The reasonable doubts they want you to dismiss. The person they want you to neglect. Riley Kay. Riley Kay was a senior producer on The Savage Wars. But I want to talk about what he did in that role. How he ignored a psychological assessment telling the staff to monitor Charlie Martin. How he lied to Charlie Martin to get her back on the show. How he put one thing above all else. His own success. He didn't care about the safety of the contestants. He didn't follow the instructions he was given. No. He manipulated Charlie Martin for ratings. For his own show's ratings. I'm going to agree with the prosecution. The danger was dismissed. But not by Charlie Martin. By Riley Kay and the state. Riley Kay knew about the altered mental state, and the state knew about Riley Kay, and gave him immunity. The state wants you to connect the dots yourself. But members of the jury, that is not how our legal system works. It's the prosecution's job to prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Charlie Martin acted recklessly. That means they have to prove to you that Charlie Martin acted recklessly with such an extreme difference to human life, such a deviation from that of a reasonable mind, that she's guilty of murder. I want to talk about what that burden means. It doesn't mean that she likely knew that would cause that. Doesn't mean she probably knew. Doesn't mean she definitely knew. It means no reasonable doubts. She knew. But members of the jury, standing before you today at the end of this trial, I have a few reasonable questions. What if Charlie Martin had PTSD? What if Riley Kay knew she was vulnerable? And what if Riley Kay decided it was the answer to his problems? You learned today that Charlie Martin has PTSD. Dr. Michael Lynn testified that season 2 was the source of Charlie Martin's trauma. Her humiliation following the betrayal of Rob Armstrong and the brutal internet response haunted her. Returning to the scene of her trauma and being forced to interact with Rob Armstrong day after day broke her. The night before Rob Armstrong's death, she experienced a temporary break from reality. She didn't believe that putting that exilic acid in Rob Armstrong's mask would harm him. Members of the jury, I'd like you to look at this label. Neon colors, words spelled wrong, hearts over the eyes. Does this look like it could kill someone? Seriously? The state's own expert testified that this label did not go far enough. It should have gone farther, but it didn't. You also learned that Riley Kay was not only aware of Charlie Martin's PTSD, she took advantage of it. She knew that Charlie Martin was vulnerable. She knew that she was brutally humiliated after season 10. Which brings me to my third point. Charlie Martin was manipulated. Charlie Martin never wanted to come back on the show. In fact, she outright refused to. She said no. But Riley Kay couldn't have that. She couldn't have it. So she lies. She tells Charlie Martin Rob Armstrong isn't coming back on the show. She manipulates Charlie Martin for the first time. Then, the cast list leaks. Charlie Martin goes to Riley Kay panicked. She didn't want to play if this was how it's going to be. Riley Kay needed her on that show, so she manipulates her for the second time. She tells her that it's going to be okay. Then we get to the challenge. Riley Kay told Charlie Martin that exilic acid was okay to use. She abused Charlie Martin's trust, and Charlie Martin trusted her. So Charlie Martin pours the exilic acid in Rob Armstrong's mask, and Riley Kay is the only one who benefits. Members of the jury, Riley Kay played a game, and Charlie Martin was her pawn. Don't punish the pawn. The prosecution has failed to prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Charlie Martin acted recklessly with an extreme indifference to Rob Armstrong's life. Members of the jury, if you have questions, then you have reasonable doubts. Find Charlie Martin not guilty. Thank you.
Prosecution have any rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor.
Just give the timekeepers a minute. You may proceed.
Opposing counsel has said that the danger was dismissed by the state. Who put the acid in the mask? The person who admitted to having put the acid in the mask was Charlie Martin, the person who said she did not read the whole label. That's pretty dismissive. Dr. Lynn testified today, saying that Charlie was not forced by anyone to join this season of the show. In fact, opposing counsel just brought into evidence something that was actually never brought up during court today. They said that the casting memo revealed a leak in the mask. The casting memo was never brought into evidence. I'd like to remind you that Dr. Hartley concluded the cause of death was drowning due to hypoxia. There was acid in this mask. It was placed there by the defendant. The label even says, "Do not use in confined or enclosed spaces." What could be more of a confined or enclosed space than a mask on someone's face they are breathing through? We proved to you today, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Charlie Martin, the defendant in this case, caused the death of Rob Armstrong. I would like to remind you of the 4 bullet points of our proof, in which I've stated every piece of evidence that leads to that proof. We urge you, members of the jury, to return a verdict of guilty, a felony in the 1st degree in today's case. Thank you.
We have to finish up our scoring, so I need for the teams to step out. Timekeepers can stay. Won't be long. Just I was just trying to figure out what I did.
Okay.
I don't, no, you don't have to do it.
Okay.
I was just, in my own mind.
Yeah.
As a presiding judge, you don't get to, you have a better chance as a scoring judge to figure things out,
Yeah.
so. Well, it is what it is, and they can't change it.
Yeah.
Seven.
Oh, when you